concrete walls. There's a place for us where we could go, where we could be alone. Between city lights, we don't have to hide. I wanna go, do you wanna follow? There's something in the air, I can't explain it, but it's there. Ain't nobody gonna find us in our secret love affair. I don't wanna have to hide no more, it shouldn't be unfair. I wanna go, and I wanna know, do you wanna follow? Baby, do you wanna follow? Come with me, do you wanna follow? Baby, can't you see that? I wanna go, and I wanna know, do you wanna follow? Baby, do you wanna follow? Come with me, do you wanna follow? Baby, can't you see that? I wanna go, and I wanna know, do you wanna follow? I can't understand why we can't hold hands, but they don't know what we have is real love. Aren't you sick and tired of having to hide? I know a place, do you wanna follow? There's something in the air, I can't explain it, but it's there. Ain't nobody gonna find us in our secret love affair. I don't wanna have to hide no more, it shouldn't be unfair. I wanna go, and I wanna know, do you wanna follow? Baby, do you wanna follow? Come with me, do you wanna follow? Baby, can't you see that? I wanna go, and I wanna know, do you wanna follow? Do you wanna follow? Baby, do you wanna follow? Come with me, do you wanna follow? Baby, can't you see that? I wanna go, and I wanna know, do you wanna follow?
No. There we go. Still not clear why that scene was black, but anyway, welcome to the live stream. Welcome to the live stream, everybody. It's good to be here with you on a Sunday afternoon, and not just any Sunday, but the holiest of Sundays, Easter. It's Easter. And all I know is this morning I had a whole bunch of jelly beans, and now I feel like I need to puke. So, hopefully that won't happen. This will be the second stream I've done where halfway through the stream I felt like I needed to puke. The first one, of course, being the chicken wing, the hot chicken wing stream. But I think we're going to be okay. We're going to power through. The jelly beans were Skittles jelly beans, and halfway through the bag, my wife looked over and was like, "That bag is a lie!" Because it looks just like a Skittles bag, and if you reached into that bag expecting Skittles and you got jelly beans, it would be bad. But you know, I am once a year. Actually, I haven't done it this year. Once a year, when I'm in the grocery store and it's around Easter time, I get myself a Cadbury cream egg and eat it. Cadbury cream eggs are simultaneously nasty and kind of good, and that's my like compromise. Is like once a year I'll just pick one up at the checkout line. But I will hurt myself on a bag of jelly beans. It's not good. It's not good. Trust me. Rob Schlicht says the caramel ones are better. They are better, but that's kind of the point. The Cadbury cream eggs, the sort of nasty, sickly sweetness is kind of like, I don't know, it's the point for me. The caramel eggs are objectively just better tasting, but that's not what I want. What can I say? I'm a glutton for punishment. And that's why I fly FPV. Because if there's one hobby that makes you think you've made a terrible mistake and wonder why you're here, it's FPV. And if you're in that position, that's why you're here on this live stream. Because I'm going to hopefully answer your questions and help you with all your problems. Maybe. We'll see. Here's what's up. Wait, no, hang on. There we go. Here's what's up. You guys, I'm going to be taking your questions here in the chat. If you guys want to leave questions in the chat. And once again, I got It's Blunty sitting metaphorically off in the producer's booth over there, helping pick questions. He's got questions queued up. So he's going to be watching the chat and queuing up questions. So we got this system going. We got this system going where he can put questions in a queue for me to... Isn't this like so professional? I'm so impressed. Here's the queue. We've already got some queued up. I will be taking questions here. I don't want to see what the rest of this GIF is. Hang on. Let's make sure everything's okay. Well, it's not as bad as I thought. My goodness. I'm really glad this GIF ends like right here because happy Easter indeed. Oh, okay. Let's have a Baby Yoda palate cleanser, shall we? Oh, woo. Okay. I'm going to be taking questions here. I'm going to be taking questions here in the chat as well. That's a Discord server. And again, I'm going to... Blunty. I did tell Blunty, though, to give a little bit of extra priority to the Discord server because folks over there are patrons. They pay every month to be in the Discord server, and they deserved just a little bit of extra attention. And of course, if you want to hit the $sign down here, this is the one way to be really sure that I get your message on the stream. It's impossible to read all the messages on the streams, especially when I babble as long as I do. And so if you want to make sure I read your message during the stream, leave a super chat and I will get to it. But as I say every week, if I don't get to your message, don't feel bad. You don't have to get a hold of me on a live stream. You can always email me. jb@joshuabardwell.com is my email address. Anyone can email me and ask, hopefully FPV related questions. And I do my best to clear that out about once a day, sometimes not quite once a day. And, so if you don't get me on the live stream, you get me in the email. All right. And we're going to start out, though. Please don't say GIF. I will say GIF. I will say GIF. I will say solder. And I'm just going to, that's what we're going to do. That's what we're going to do. I can tell you this. I can tell you that I'm going to hit this queue that has 10 messages in it and start reading messages from the queue. Thank you, Kevin, James, Oscar FPV. Happy Easter to you, sir. Thank you for a $5 super chat. We're going to start off strong with a super chat. Boom. JBD FPV. JB? JBD. I'm not proud of that. I'm not proud of that joke. Trying a question for the queue. Last night I tackled the task of rooting and installing wtfos. Everything was going good, but now when I try to connect to the wtfos configurator, I get the message, could not connect to device, make sure ADB server is running. Okay, so when this happens, first of all, check to see if you have another browser window open with wtfos in it. Usually for me, this is not what's doing it, but sometimes it is. And I'll be like, what are you talking about? I don't have any other windows open. And then I'll be like, oh yeah, I had another window open. Oops, my bad. Assuming that's not the case. The next thing is that sometimes it's necessary to wait like a minute. I don't know exactly how long, but like you'll plug the goggles in, they'll kind of power up and almost be there. And then like you just wait a little longer and they'll come back. Sometimes it takes them a while to fully boot. So if you just wait, it may be the issue. that's usually what fixes it for me, is just waiting a little longer or closing a window that's running in the background. I can tell you, it has never been that I have to go to my machine and type ADB kill-server. That's not it. JoePro, we are not getting into the debate about GIF versus GIF. There are arguments on both sides. There is no clear right answer. Anyone who thinks there is a clear right answer is wrong. Say whatever you want to say. There are bigger things to worry about in the world. The people who argue about GIF versus GIF just want to argue. And, I'm just not feeling that today. Oh my God, there are 14 messages queued up. This was a huge mistake. I don't know. Now this feels like work. Rusty, EP, FPV. If I have 4 LEDs on the drone, does it consume a lot of battery? No. In short, no. The thing is, people sometimes ask, if I have my video transmitter at 800 milliwatts or versus 25 milliwatts, how's that going to affect my flight time? This is a similar question. If I have LEDs, how much is it going to reduce my flight time? The answer is hardly at all. And the reason is that the motors draw so much power. The motors will draw, let's say they draw 30 amps at just cruise and hover. And then as you're pumping the throttle and really pushing it, they could draw 150, 160 amps or more. So let's say that your video transmitter is pulling a half an amp, right? Who cares? It's such a small fraction of the total loads that you're not going to notice. It's like when they say some line item in the military budget was $10 million. $10 million is a lot of money, but compared to the rest of the military's budget, it's nothing and you barely even notice it. It's the same thing with your motors and your amps. So those LEDs are not, an LED, a typical LED might pull, 50 or 100 milliamps. That's nothing. But even if it was pulling, even if you had a ton of LEDs and they were pulling an amp, it's nothing compared to, you're not going to notice the difference. Junus, good to see you. Good to see you there. Junus, somebody tagged Junus. With a WFO. Good to see you. It's such a privilege to have so many, it's such a privilege to have so many people on my Discord server who have better things to do with their time than hang out on my Discord server, like work on ExpressLRS or work on Betaflight or work on FPV WTF. And in addition to doing that, they think it's worth their time to hang out on my Discord server. And imposter syndrome doesn't really let me think too hard about why, but it is a privilege. It's a privilege, an honor, however you want to put that. Part of me wants to segue into a plug for my Discord server, but I feel it's a little early in the stream and would be a little excessively self-serving. So I'll finish that question with one comment. If you have a very small battery, like a tiny whoop with a 300 or 450 milliamp hour battery, at that point, the battery is so small that turning your video transmitter up to 400 milliwatts versus 25 milliwatts might make a noticeable difference. Continuing on, there are now 18 messages in the queue. This is bad. 19 messages in the queue. The hell? Uh-oh, there's a problem. Oh, no. Wait a second. I'm curious. Hang on, I have to check something. Okay, the pins do still go to the top of even if I'm scrolled down. Okay, great. Kai Coops asks, hey, I want to buy the Gepper C Mark V. What receiver should I go with? There is no one right answer to this. The receiver that you buy, first of all, obviously the receiver has to match and be compatible with the controller. So first thing you're going to do is you're going to think about which receiver protocol is going to work best for you. And then you're going to think about a controller that supports that protocol. I do want to... This is a good time to throw out that my website, fpvknowitall.com, my website has a page on controllers and receivers, and it's not just a shopping list, but it also has a lot of technical discussion about which protocol should you get. So now I've got a video. This is a little bit of a dated video, but it is still mostly relevant. But there's also content here talking about the pros and cons of the different protocols. I would say that today, probably ExpressLRS is the fastest growing for sure. I don't know if it's the most popular, but I think it's certainly the fastest growing. ExpressLRS is high performance and not very expensive, but is less user-friendly and easy to use. And for a beginner who is already sort of struggling with the learning curve of all the things you have to learn in FPV, ExpressLRS can be frustrating. Crossfire, great performance, much easier to use, a little more expensive and not as readily available. Good hardware quality. I would say whatever you do, I would stay away from the last generation control protocols like FreeSky, FlySky, Spectrum. That's basically it. I would stay away from those last generation, and I would only really consider Ghost, Tracer, Crossfire, or ExpressLRS. And of those, I feel like Tracer is the one that I would least recommend to a person getting into the hobby. And so really the three I would steer you towards are Ghost, ExpressLRS, or Crossfire. Well, let's keep narrowing it down. If you don't mind technical complexity, like flashing firmware and, you know, all that nonsense, then certainly ExpressLRS is a way to go. A lot of racers more racers than I thought are using Ghost. Ghost has not quite the same range and penetration as ExpressLRS in the extremes, but still more than enough for anybody. Ghost is a little more expensive. It's easier to use than ExpressLRS. And it's a little harder to find hardware in stock. And then Crossfire, the big disadvantage of Crossfire is that it's 900 megahertz instead of 2.4 gigahertz, so the antennas are a lot longer. They're just bigger and harder to mount. Crossfire, similar in price to Ghost. Generally, you can find parts in stock. The other thing about ExpressLRS that's a pro is that you find a lot of bind and flies with ExpressLRS in it and Crossfire, but not Ghost. So if you're looking to buy bind and flies, probably Crossfire or ExpressLRS would be your choice. Those are some thoughts about directions you could go. Anyway, it's not an easy question. Is it okay if I PID tune to 7-inch and it flies great, but Betaflight says it could cause flyaway? Asks Sav FPV. Yes, the short answer is yes. It's fine. Don't worry about it. Betaflight is assuming that you have worst case hardware. So when it says this could cause flyaway, it means if your hardware is crap or you don't know how to build, this could cause flyaways. If you are a good builder and you have good hardware, you can push that a lot further. So as long as it flies great, that's all that really matters. I feel like the queue has overlooked this question from Brandon Beans. My drones always feel like they fly better at night. Is that just an illusion with the lighting? My guess, Brandon Beans, is that at night, there's less light. That's not a guess. That's a fact. My guess is that because there is less light, the shutter speed of the camera has to slow down in order to get the exposure correct. And that causes more motion blur. And you're liking the look of the motion blur. That's my guess as to what's going on. Jory says, Betaflight telling you your tune might cause flyaways is how you know you have a good tune. Unless your drone flies away, in which case it's bad. Yeah, pretty much. Slaughter Bardfast asks, what are your current thoughts on the best antennas for Walksnail VTX and VRX? We will refer to fpvknowitall.com. We're going to, and this is actually, I'm not just taking an opportunity to plug my website. I mean, I am plugging my website. This is how I answer these questions, though, and how I would encourage you to answer these questions, although I'm happy to talk about it. If we go to the HD digital FPV systems, we go to Walksnail Avatar, there better be suggested antennas. Now, it turns out, again, as with most things in FPV, there is no one right answer. There are several possibilities. The TrueRC XAir is kind of the leading candidate, right? You could go with the Mark II, the XAir Mark II. You could go with an XAir combo, patch and Omni. And the difference is going to be that this is going to give you a little more penetration in the front, and this is going to give you a little more sort of all-around penetration with the Omnis. And then there's also an option to get the X2 Air, which is the difference between the X Air and the X2 Air is that the X2 Air has a little bit narrower vertical beam width. So it's going to be a little more sensitive to you dropping your head, but it's going to have more penetration as long as you're in that beam. You'll notice that none of those options are 4 Omnis. The only reason to run 4 Omnis is because you haven't got the budget yet to buy some patch antennas, in my humble opinion. So these are not the only good antennas, but these are some good solid antennas, and what I would consider as a good choice. As far as the VTX goes, ooh, that's a tougher one. So that's just going to be any 5.8 gigahertz UFL antenna. I do think that we should add one because the stock antenna is garbage. These stock antennas that come with it, you can't see what I'm, sorry. These stock antennas that come with the VTX are garbage. What I would do here is I would just go to 5-inch racing and look for analog. It doesn't matter. Yeah. Where's my antennas? Yeah. So I would pick any of these. It's just a 5.8 gigahertz antenna. It doesn't have to be a special digital antenna. So Foxeer Lollipop, Rush Cherry, Xylo Axie, any of these are fine except for the Vaz Ion. That's UFL only. SMA only. Any of these UFL antennas are fine for the Walksnail VTX. So, there you go. Oh my God, we have 24 messages in the queue. How is this happening? Greg Dombowski, thank you for a $1.10 super chat. Does Greg have a question? Or is it just a sticker? There's the question from Greg. Greg, let's see here. Greg asks, iFlight Success AIO and one of the motors gets hot as soon as I plug the battery in. Is the motor or the ESC? If it gets hot as soon as you plug the battery in, to me that has to be the ESC. And the reason is that the ESC should not be flowing current through the motor when the throttle is down, right? The ESC's whole job is to control the amount of current that flows through the motor. Now, if the motor is damaged, then what can happen is that as soon as the ESC starts to flow a little bit of current, the motor is like, give it all to me. And too much current flows and the motor fries. But if the throttle is all the way down, the ESC should be completely clamped off. And so if the motor is getting hot, that means the ESC is not correctly limiting the current going through the motor. My gut feeling on that would be that the ESC has a problem. Matthew Finn says, I'm new to this hobby, but I've received all of the gear used for my brother. I don't know what all of it is, and my brother is not around. What's that? What, Plenty? Okay, thank you. I got it. You guys can't hear. Did you guys hear? No, that's muted. You guys can't. Blunty's in my ear telling me there's more to this question. Can you help me? The brother he's not around to help me, so do you know a way to identify all of the parts he has left me? Matthew Finn, if you email me, jb@joshuabardwell.com, if you email me a picture of all the gear, we can try to identify it here on the live stream. So let me just, can I pin it? No, I can't right click it. Why can't I right click it? That's weird. I have to scroll all the way to the bottom, and then what? Can I scroll back up again? But if it's not on the bottom, I can't pin it. Matthew Finn, I want to pin it so we come back to it after he emails me. So I don't forget. Can you pin it, Plenty? All right, thank you. Okay, we'll come back to Matthew after he emails me, hopefully. In the meantime, we've got a $5 super chat from Ternaz. I've definitely learned something every time I hear, thank you so much for all you do, JB. Oh, this is my favorite super chats. It's just when people are happy that I've helped them. Awesome. Appreciate it. Thank you for the kind words. Brandon Beans says, too bad TBS won't make ExpressLRS hardware. If they did, it would be very good hardware. There's no doubt about that. Severian787 asks, hi Josh, do you know if there's a way to wire up an ExpressLRS receiver using SBUS so I could use the connector for the receiver on my Darwin 129 rather than soldering it to the flight controller the regular way? Yes, well, so there are two answers to the question that you're asking. Let's go into ExpressLRS configurator, and I'm going to pick a receiver, Happy Model 2.4 gigahertz, and I'm going to pick the receiver. Okay, so in ExpressLRS configurator, if you enable the option Receiver Invert TX, what that's going to do is it is going to cause the receiver to output inverted crossfire. And what that's going to let you do is wire the receiver's TX to the SBUS pad on your flight controller, and it will work. The receiver is not outputting SBUS. It is outputting crossfire, but it's outputting inverted crossfire, that's what's special about the SBUS pad on your flight controller is it has an inverter. So what you will do is you will flash your receiver with this option enabled. Then you will wire the receiver TX to the SBUS pad on your flight controller, and then you will set the flight controller to use crossfire, not SBUS, and it will work. Yay! Coming in the future, ExpressLRS will have the ability, someone's working on it now, but I don't think it's done. It will have the ability to output SBUS, but don't do that. Use crossfire unless you just absolutely have a flight controller or something that cannot take crossfire. All right. Brandon RC says SBUS output is on master. I just tested it. It's not in release yet, though, right, Brandon? Is it actually in release? Version 3.3 starting RC later this month. Yeah, okay, so it's not out for RC yet, according to Cat and Bry. All right. Jess asks, hi Joshua, any tips for soft mounting a flight controller to minimize vibration? Also, vibration relation to motor RPM filtering. Happy Easter Sunday. Happy Easter Sunday to you as well, Jess. I mean, generally, when you're soft mounting a flight controller, the way to do it is to use the silicone vibration isolating gummies that come with the flight controller, right? They have a good amount of vibration isolation without having so much vibration isolation that the flight controller wobbles. If you excessively soft mount something, it can start to wobble and you'll get low frequency or mid frequency oscillation, and it's no good. So don't do anything weird or obscure. Just use the vibration isolating gummies that hopefully come with the flight controller, and you'll be fine. Shaky Mike's Adventures asks, who made your first 4-in-1 ESC that could come with your F4 flight controller? That was Acon. No. Airbot. I'm sorry. I knew it was started with an A. Airbot made the first 4-in-1 ESC and the first, the JBF4 flight controller. I wonder why Mike wants to know that. Well, that's the answer. Evil Knievel asks, what do you think of this pizza oven? Uni.com. Okay. What do you think of this pizza oven? This is going to be one of those ones that Blunty picked because it's going to make good content for the Livestream Clips channel. By the way, if you don't know, Joshua Bardwell Livestream Clips is my second channel with Livestream Clips. Now, if you watch all of every live stream, then the Livestream Clips, well, you might still go, hey, I remember Bardwell talked about a pizza oven one time, but you can't find the live stream. Again, Joshua Bardwell Livestream Clips is where you can find a lot of the best parts of the live streams. But especially if you don't watch the whole live stream every time, you can go back and check out the Livestream Clips channel to get the highlights. It's Joshua Bardwell Livestream Clips. If you're not subscribed, get the hell on over there and subscribe. Let's take a look at this Uni Volt 12 electric pizza oven. So I'm already slightly predisposed against it because it's not a propane oven, but electric ovens can be good. Unlike fuel-burning ovens, you can use this indoors. Let's see. So the first thing I look at is the size of the cooking area. It's a 13-inch cooking area. Now, that's not generous by my standards. So I typically cook a 15 or 16-inch pie. I'll have a 16-inch pizza skin, and I'll size the dough to just fit that. Maybe overlap it slightly. To me, if you're cooking by yourself, a 12-inch pie is fine. Like I'll polish off a 12-inch pie. Man, I mean, on a good day, I'll polish off a 14-inch pie, but I may not feel so great afterwards. So I think a 12-inch pie serves one or two people. I typically am serving a family of 3 or maybe 4. The number of people in my family doesn't change, but sometimes the youngest one doesn't eat a lot. So for me, a 16-inch is where I want to be. It is a lot harder to find these dedicated pizza ovens in that size. To me, the 13-inch cook area would be the deal breaker. But, it looks like it does fit on the counter. That's nice. Top temp of 850 Fahrenheit. That's nice. The big advantage of a pizza oven like this, so the challenge with cooking a pizza is to get the top and the bottom to cook together. You need a lot of bottom heat. So that the bread gets a good spring, get a nice juicy bubbly crust, not like bubbles, but like you want the gas bubbles in the dough to get hit by the heat and expand. You want to get it nice and crisp. And the problem with home ovens is that usually they don't have enough bottom heat and they have too much heat coming from the top. And so the toppings will start to burn and you'll have to pull it out before the bottom is really fully done. The other problem with home ovens is you want pizza, unless you're doing something like a deep dish, like a really deep dish pizza, you want them to cook at a really high temperature so they cook quickly. And so a temperature of, like, my oven goes to 550 and that's where I run it, but I'd run it hotter if it would let me. 850 is a good temp. And so these dedicated pizza ovens will have the correct balance of top to bottom heat. In fact, on commercial ovens, you can actually just adjust the relative top to bottom heat. Now, this is interesting because it's electric. I mean, sure, okay. I mean, I guess it probably does what it says. Electric pizza oven. See, also, F Neapolitan style pizza, okay? Now, hang on. Somewhere out there's lovers of Neapolitan-style pizza who are offended. Neapolitan-style pizza is a fine pizza, but I'm so god-dang annoyed at people who think that only Neapolitan-style pizza is the only kind of pizza that is worth every other pizza is inferior. F you. Neapolitan style pizza is fine. It's not even my favorite style of pizza. And every single person who like is a pizza snob is like, oh yes, look at this pizza I made. And it's some like bubbly, burnt thing with like one dollop of sauce in the middle and a piece of mozzarella and a freaking basil leaf that they threw on. And they're like, this is what all pizza should be. I'm like, F you. New York style pizza is legit. But it is the hardest pizza to cook successfully. So if it can cook a Neapolitan style pizza, it can also do anything else. It's fine. It's probably fine. Being electric makes it easier to use. If it delivers the temps that it says it'll deliver, for like a person who cooks 12-inch pies, 10-inch pies, it seems like this would be okay. I'd have to watch reviews of it. It'd be a deal breaker for me because I need to cook up to like a 16-inch pie. All right. Oh, thank you, Blenty. Got some pinned comments here. Let's take a look at what we got. They do have a propane version, says Nick Sebring. I assume they did. My son has one, and it's awesome. For $1,000? Yeah, that's the thing. $1,000 is a lot. It's a lot to pay for a 12-inch pizza oven. Like, how much is the propane version? This is probably cheaper. I know they make bigger ovens, too. Multi-fuel oven. So here's $18 for here's $800 for a 16-inch propane version. See, that's where I would go if I was going to go this direction. But I get okay results out of my. Oh, here's a 12. The 12 is a lot cheaper. Damn. I get okay results out of my home oven, and that's a lot of money to spend to get dedicated pizza, especially if you don't need to cook Neapolitan. You can't cook Neapolitan style in your home oven. Good, I don't want to. Michael Clark says a friend brought over a propane pizza oven last weekend, and it was awesome and quick pizza. Indeed. The other problem with a home oven is what I do is I put a piece of steel, which is just a big 16-inch piece of steel. It's like 3/8 inch thick, half-inch thick. And you put it in the oven, you put the oven on 550, and then you walk away for an hour to preheat. And that steel helps you get bottom heat directly into the crust, which means the first pizza you cook is fantastic. The second pizza, you don't want to wait an hour for the oven to heat back up again. So it's hard to make more than one pie at a time in a home oven, whereas these things, they just heat right back up again. So that is good. They're wood and propane versions that are incredible. Costco sold these in Canada. Yeah, if you can buy one from Costco, Costco has basically a no questions asked return policy on almost everything. So if you have a Costco membership, there's zero risk in buying it, because if you don't like it, you literally just take it back and they give you your money back. The 16-inch gas one is the one I would get. I just cook on the bottom rack after preheating the heck out of it on max. Yeah, a pizza steel will change your life if you cook pizza at home in a home oven. It will change. It really makes a difference, at least on that very first pie when you have time to preheat. Alexander Seidler says this is a sideways toaster for $1,000. Joe Pro, we're not going there, buddy. We're not going there. All right, continuing. Good. That'll be a good one for the Livestream Clips channel. People love when I talk pizza. If you didn't know, way back when, in 2020, when we were all staying at home, well, I guess not all of us, but Rotor Riot did a little special pandemic episode, and everybody made a little contribution to the episode. My contribution was my pizza making recipe. Oh, look at that. It went down, and then it went back up again. This video... Oh, only 17K views. That's not as many. This graph looked like I was getting a lot of views per hour. So yeah, if you want to, you can check this video out, which has my whole pizza making technique, including the toss. Where's the toss? No? Oh. Anyway, check that out. Continuing. Newt McFly asks, how do you set up RSSI, DBM, and LQ to have an alarm on logical switches in the Radiomaster Boxer? So Newt McFly, this is one of those questions that, well, actually, technically Newt McFly, the boom arm that my overhead camera uses has broken, and it's not usable right now. I might lower that camera down and just show you how to do it on stream. But since the boom arm is broken, I'm not going to do that. So I'll be happy to go through it with you via email if you email me the question. But the short version is, number one, you need to look in the telemetry screen and see that RSSI, dBm, and LQ are there in the telemetry screen. Number two, you're going to set up a logical switch to be true when that telemetry sensor goes below a certain value. And then number three, you're going to set up a special function that plays a sound when the logical switch becomes true. That's the short version, but that's just how to set up an audio alert based on a telemetry sensor. And there are tutorials for that out there. So presumably something is going wrong. And I'm not really sure. You should email me about that. Speaking of email, let's just check and see if Matthew Finn has emailed me. jb@joshuabardwell.com is my email address. And anybody can email me if they have a question. It looks like no. So we'll have to come back to that, but we will. We'll try to anyway. Uni does sell pizza stones for your oven. Okay, but I had a pizza stone. In my humble opinion, maybe not that humble, a piece of steel is 1,000% better than a pizza stone. It's way more expensive and it's way heavier, but that metal can hold so much more heat, and the metal can move the heat into the crust. So it's not just about the heat capacity, but it's about the ability of why does an aluminum can feel cold when you touch it? It's because the metal can move the energy into your skin more efficiently than something with insulation. And so a metal pizza steel, as soon as you slide that crust on there, boom, the crust gets hit with it. Is a pizza steel made from stainless? No. Pizza steel is made from regular steel, I don't know what alloy, and then you just season it with fat like you do a cast iron pan or something. Why don't you use a standard oven? It's just okay. It's okay for me. We got more pizza-related content, I see. Hero Kimmy, what's your thoughts on 6-inch quads? Are they just a marketing ploy? Or are there reasons you would actually pick them over a 5-inch? So 6-inch quads are not just a marketing ploy. No, sir. No, sir. There are reasons you would choose a 6-inch or a 7-inch or a 5-inch. The reason you don't see as many 6 inches is that generally it's like there's too much gradation. Like 5-inch is a really nice sweet spot where you can be pretty acrobatic and have a great balance of power. And it just seems like there are these plateaus in the usability of quads, right? Like you don't see a lot of 4 inches, but you see a lot of 3 inches. And then you don't see a lot of 4 inches, but you see a lot of 5 inches. And you don't see a lot of 6 inches, but you see plenty of 5s and 7s. And it feels like most people will either want the agility of a 5-inch, or if they would go with a 6-inch, they'll just step up to a 7-inch. And they'll get the stability, longer flight time, and so on. But 6-inch is totally the right place to be for certain things. Like if you want kind of the agility of a 5-inch, but you need to carry a heavier battery and a heavier GoPro, so you need just a little more thrust and efficiency, 6-inch is a great place to be. One of the problems is that these in-between sizes don't have great prop selection. So like there's a ton of great 5-inch props. There's more than a few good 7-inch props, although not a lot. And 6-inch, there's just not a huge number of great props for. But 6-inch is not just a scam. It's not marketing. It's the right tool for some jobs. You just don't see it as much. Wife Haver. I was wondering if I could use an old receiver of mine using the AF-DHA 2A protocol on a SpeedyBee F405 flight controller. There is. That's a FlySky protocol receiver, and it will go to any UART RX pad. Any UART RX pad on the flight controller and use the iBus protocol, most likely. Why are you guys doing this to me? Why? I am sure that all of these pizzas are delicious. I would love olives. These look like delicious pizzas. But the problem is snobs who think that this is the only legitimate style of pizza. And I reject them. I reject that. It is not even my favorite style of pizza. Okay. So I say, those look like good pizzas. PX Saber asks, on what screws should you use Loctite and which to not use Loctite? Okay, so the first thing about that is don't use Loctite on any plastic because the solvent in the Loctite will degrade the plastic. So, for example, on prop nuts, don't use Loctite. If you have T-mount props, don't use Loctite on the screws. There are people who disagree with me when I say this. They're like, well, I've done that. Now, it's like, good, you've gotten away with it. But it absolutely, it can cause a problem where your prop just basically crumbles, okay? Always use blue Loctite, never use red Loctite. Red Loctite is permanent, and you should almost never use it in a hobby application. Very, very rarely. Blue Loctite will come undone with a little bit of force. The number one place to use Loctite is the frame standoffs and the motor screws. Those are all good places to use Loctite. Frankly, you can use Loctite just about anywhere, and it would probably be good if you did, but a lot of the time people don't take the trouble to do it. I got to speed up. The queue is still at 20 messages. Null Fields asks, you've recommended using the iFlight Blitz ESC alongside your flight controller. Can you give more general guidelines as for how to pick a fitting ESC for it? Thank you, Nick. Thank you, Nullfield, for a $5 super chat. The number one consideration that I use when picking an ESC is whether it will plug into my flight controller without having to repin the wires. I am on some level, I am just a lazy SOB. It's weird to say that because I will also take a stupid, tiny problem and spend an unrealistic amount of time trying to solve that problem, which if I was truly lazy, I wouldn't do that. But I don't enjoy repinning plugs. It's kind of a pain. And so the number one thing I'll do is I'll say which ESC has a matching pinout for my flight controller, and then I will buy that ESC and I will plug it in, okay? You want the ESC to have adequate amp rating. However, most modern ESCs have plenty of amp rating for almost anything you would want to do with them. They're typically in the 45 to 65 amp range, and generally, you're not going to exceed that rating. Getting a higher rated ESC probably will make it a little more durable, just because you have a little more headroom. But really, any 45 to 65 amp 4-in-1 ESC will work. You might just have to repin the ESC. The other thing to think about is BLHeli-S versus BLHeli-32. Those are the two major firmwares that are used for ESCs in the FPV hobby. BLHeli-S is typically a little cheaper. Like a BLHeli-S ESC might be $55, and a BLHeli-32 ESC with equivalent specs might be $80, $85. BLHeli-32 has a little bit more capability. You can adjust the PWM frequency. You can do bidirectional D-shot out of the box. It has a little bit more capability, but it doesn't necessarily fly any better. With BLHeli-S, you can get any capability that you need. You might just have to flash a custom firmware to it. So I would totally, and have totally bought BLHeli-S ESCs over BLHeli-32 just to save the money. That's my general guidelines for picking an ESC. Empire asks, has ExpressLRS flash through Betaflight pass-through ever worked? Yes, it has. I have gotten it working. It is a pain to get it working sometimes. Do you have any tips to get it working? So the problem, there's two things that you got to do to get it working. One of them is, I'm pretty sure you have to disable telemetry in the receiver tab to get pass-through working. I'm not 100% sure about that, but I think so. And the other thing is that a lot of times you have to time it so that the receiver powers up and you start the flash just as the receiver's powering up. Because for the receiver, there is a window of time when it first powers up called the bootloader window. And if during that window, the flight controller tries to flash the receiver, then the receiver goes, oh, okay, I should go into bootloader and flash. But if that window passes, then the receiver will not go into bootloader. So the last time I struggled to get it working, and I don't even know why I was flashing via pass-through instead of the web interface, but the last time I went through this, the final step to getting it to work was that I would power up the receiver and then I would hit flash just as it was powering up. And I just tried that 3 or 4 times with slightly different timing. And eventually I got it and it worked. Hope that was helpful. Brandon RC asks, should I go to 8S because Rotor Riot said so? I assume you're joking, Brandon. I am planning an 8S freestyle build because it was awfully fun to fly. But in general, no, don't go to 8S. Unless you're just looking to have one fun, freaky, weird build. 8S is super expensive. The batteries are expensive. There's only 2 ESCs you can pick. And I'm pretty sure that if people start flying 8S as a daily driver, they will conclude that the ESCs don't have the durability that they want. I can't say that with 100% certainty, but I bet that's what's going to happen. But I'm interested to know, and that's why I'm planning to build one. Aditya Chandra. Good to see you, Aditya. I am thinking of building an 8S 7-inch. Are 3110 1250 kV motors okay? So for 7-inch, I think 1250 kV motors. There is a honeybee. There's a honeybee in my room, which is fine with me. I like bees. Honeybees are super cool and friendly, but sometimes honeybees make a nest where they shouldn't. And it does make me wonder whether this is just a little lost honeybee that came inside and doesn't know what to do with itself, or whether there's a honeybee nest somewhere in my house that I'm going to have to deal with. I shouldn't watch those videos on YouTube. This is not good. You know those videos where someone has just racks and racks of honeybee comb in their walls? I'd like to take a moment to pause the live stream and do a little PSA about bees versus wasps. It is a honeybee. Holy crap, that's so cool. But poor little fella needs to get outside. Bees are bros. Bees are cool. Bees do not want to mess with you. Bees are not a threat to you. Bees make honey. Bees pollinate. There's some people who would say that European bees are not native and actually are a problem, but that's a separate issue. In general, when you encounter bees in the wild, if you just don't mess with them, they won't mess with you, and everybody will go along their ways. Wasps are assholes. Not all wasps, by the way. There are two different kinds of wasps. There are social wasps and there are solitary wasps. Solitary wasps have no particular protective instinct. Again, solitary wasps, unless you like accidentally slap one with your hand, they're just going to leave you alone. Social wasps are wasps that make nests like yellow jackets, and they will F you up for coming near their neighborhood. Okay? A lot of people mistake bees and wasps. They see any small yellow flying insect and they think it's a wasp, and then they want to kill it. And bees don't deserve that rap. Wasps, I don't blame you if you're prejudiced against wasps. What were we talking about? Our 1250 kV motor's okay for 7-inch 8S. So the thing is, I don't think you're going to have a ton of choice in motor kV. The motors are going to be tailored towards 6S. If you want to, you can just use like an 80% motor output limit and be fine. This bee is going to really distract me. How can we deal with this fella? He is lost. He is lost and he's trying to find his home. Or she. The drones are male. I think it's a she. Like, where are you going, buddy? Where are you going? How am I gonna... I don't even know how I'm gonna catch it. I don't know. It's really confused. And wants a place to be. All right. Moving on. I'll try to ignore it. Elegant Drifter asks, I'm curious if you know if they fixed the issue, where if I go back to my smaller quads, the binding to the O3 unit is lost. Elegant Drifter, that issue has been fixed on the goggles too, but not the V2 goggles. And I am guessing it will never be fixed on the V2 goggles because I am guessing that for the most part, DJI's development of the V2 goggles is over. And they've just moved on to the goggles 2 and Integra. Travis Eastman asks, are all versions of the Goggles 2 rootable now? I have the Goggles 2. Wait, damn it. Travis Eastman. First of all, thank you for a $5 super chat. Travis Eastman refers to the Goggles V2, but then also the Goggles 2. Oh, I see what you're saying. You have the Goggles 2. The Goggles 2 don't support HD fonts. You want to switch to the V2 goggles. I see. Yes, the answer to your question is yes. What you need to do, there's a new utility out called Butter from the FPV WTF team. Butter can take any DJI goggle firmware and roll it back to 0608 or whatever the firmware version is that lets you root it. So no matter what firmware is on your goggles, your V2 goggles, you can run Butter to roll it back to 0606 and then you can root it. The workflow is as follows. Number 1, run Butter. Number 2, root the goggle. Number 3, update the goggle to the latest firmware in the DJI Assistant. Number 4, install WTFOS. The reason that it's that order is that when you update the firmware in DJI Assistant, the WTFOS is removed, but the root is not removed. I still am not seeing this email from Matthew Flynn. Oh, I got it. I am seeing it. Hang on one second. We go back to this email from Matthew Flynn about identifying the parts that his brother has given him. I hope, Matthew, that your brother went to college or something and not something less happy. Let's pop this out. Okay. So what do we got here from Matthew Flynn? This is a power supply with an ISDT charger. It's an ISDT... Oh, SC620. Wow, I remember that. That's an okay charger. It's an older charger. It's a good charger, though. This is a parallel charging board. I would not mess with that until you're more knowledgeable. There are some safety risks to playing with this parallel charging board, so just leave that alone. This is a 1S charging board for tiny whoop batteries. You'll know they're tiny whoop batteries because they'll have a matching PH 2.0 connector on there. And these switches control high volt versus normal, and I don't know what the second switch is for. Maybe the charge rate. This is a cell checker. It just tells you if your batteries are full or not. And we've got various batteries here. Each battery will go to a different quad. This is an antique that basically belongs in a museum. If this was in flyable condition, then I would keep flying it, because why not? But if this is not in flyable condition, then the process you'll basically have to build a whole new quad to get it to fly, because all of the parts are, I can't say all, but they're pretty old. And by the time you start replacing them, you'll essentially end up building a whole new quad. In my opinion, I probably wouldn't put too much effort in trying to get this working because it's just so old. This looks a little better. I think these are Brother Hobby motors. Those are decent motors. As far as the ESCs go, I like the red electrical tape. Big fan of that. The frame looks 3D printed, so it may not have the durability you want, but it probably will fly. We got another shot of this? I don't know that we do. This, and it looks like it's in flying condition. It looks like a more modern build. I can't tell what receiver is on it. The last one looked like a FlySky receiver. We'll see what radio you have. This is probably flyable, I would guess. These are Fat Shark goggles, duh. I'm going to guess that they're HDO, but I can't see. So those are probably, and that looks like a rapid fire module. Not a rapid fire, I'm sorry, Furious. It looks like a Furious FPV True D module, if my memory is good. Here's this 3D printed quad again. It looks like the frame plates are also 3D printed. This thing is going to explode when you crash it, so get ready for that. That's a Tyrannus X9D Plus radio. You can tell it's a plus because of the water transfer. That's a solid radio. That probably means you have FreeSky receivers in your quads. So it'll bind to all of them. This is a tiny whoop of some sort. The flight controller makes it look like a newbie drone. Because it's that brown color that newbie drone flight controllers are. I don't recognize this guy. Is that a Beta FPV or maybe an Emax? And I don't recognize this guy off the top of my head. Yeah. Is the HDO? Oh, that's the HD3. Okay, so those are Fat Shark HD3 goggles, not HDO. That's fine. They don't have the OLED screen, but here's the power cable for them. These are great antennas. That's a VAS ion antenna, I think, and that is the crosshair antenna. Those are great antennas for the goggles. And then we've got MISC here. Okay, so hang on. Back up what I said about not fixing that 5-inch. Since you've got spare parts, like maybe these ESCs would work on that 5-inch. This is a camera with a built-in video transmitter. It would be used on like a very small quad, like maybe this guy here, if it doesn't have a separate video transmitter. That's my guess, is that camera is designed. Yeah, so you got the VTX antenna coming out here. these are ESCs. We've got a bunch of spare camera lenses here and a bunch of spare cameras with the lenses removed. I guess he liked to try different lenses. You're going to need to... Oh, and then you got these boards with the camera sensor exposed. Interesting. These are spare flight controllers for the Tiny Whoop. ESCs. These are camera joystick for configuring the cameras. Oh boy. Oh boy. The bee touched me when I wasn't expecting it. That was exciting. This looks like a flight controller. An all-in-one flight controller, maybe. And these are smoke stoppers. They're designed to protect. Just look up smoke stopper. Spare antennas. These antennas are basically trash. Don't use them. These are okay antennas. And a whole bunch of spare motors. So yeah, I don't know how helpful that is, but there you go. That's what you got. Let's see. Bubby FPV is looking for a really old FPV drone that works. I want to fly something like Sharpoo flew back in the days. Anybody who has a really old, like an old blackout build or something with a Naze 32, get a hold of Bubby. He's looking for one. Going back to the question about binding the O3, Blunty, thank you for leaving these up. See, this is I would have missed this, but I'm glad you left them up because now I can go back and catch them. Regarding the losing binding thing, we now have a package on the configurator that fixes the binding loss when switching from O3 to DIY. It doesn't work the other way around, though, because, I don't know, maybe they can fix it, but they've got a package that fixes that. That is exciting. O3 mode is special and needs more work. It sucks that it only works one way, but it's something. It's something. It's called Tweak Fix Bind Loss. So if you have a rooted set of V2 goggles, then you're definitely going to want to. I don't see any reason not to install that. Continuing with a question from Waller. I'm having an issue with my Walksnail avatar. I had a VTX on one quad. It worked fine. I moved to another quad and the OSD doesn't work properly. I have to use the SpeedyBee app to use Font Manager to upload new font to get... No, that doesn't work. That doesn't make sense, Waller. And I hesitate here because I don't want to sound like I'm telling you that what's happening to you. I don't want to sound like I'm gaslighting you and being like, no, that's not possible. But the font manager in Betaflight only affects the analog flight controllers with the max OSD chip. So if you're using a digital OSD, I don't see any way that the font manager could be having an effect. Uploading a new font doesn't... Am I crazy? Uploading a new font doesn't affect digital VTXs at all. So my guess is that there is some configuration option. My guess is that there's some configuration option in your CLI that is getting like tweaked. And I would look at the configuration options related to digital OSD. Like, for example, any minute now, hold on. All right, this bee has got to go. Hello, friend. Hello, friend. Hey, Blunty. Yeah, I think so. Okay. I'm going to relocate this bee. We're going to relocate this bee. Hold on. I have to relocate this bee outside. Hold on 1 second. Okay. The bee is now outside. Now, if you find more bees... Yeah. Yeah. It gets interesting. They just keep coming in your house, then it gets very interesting. Like, for example, no. OSD DisplayPort device is one that you could be concerned with. Like, I'm just trying to think of the options that you would want to check. That needs to be set to MSP. That needs to be set to MSP. VCD video system, you want that set to either HD or PAL, depending on if your system supports the HD canvas. I can't imagine what would cause this, though. Yeah. So I would check all those CLI options, because the font manager just can't be doing... Something else is happening when you mess with the font manager. I don't know what it could be. And then Almost, thank you for a $5 super chat. And thanks for everything over the years. Been watching you since you were stuffing pigs in buckets. Oh, that's an old cut. Aditya, thank you for a $10 super chat. I am thinking of building... didn't I already answer this one? I already answered this one. That's weird. Maybe Aditya super chatted me again. Andy Taylor says, hey, JB, when I arm my Vista, it drops from 50 to like 2. Any tips or is it cooked? My best guess, Andy, is that you have electrical noise from your motors, and that is messing with the power going to the VTX. So if the VTX is powered from VBAT, try moving it to a 9-volt regulator. And if it's powered from a regulator, confusingly, try moving it to VBAT. Sometimes the regulator can be the problem. Blunty suggests reseating the camera cable. How, here, hang on, Blunty. I'm going to unmute you. All right, they can hear you now, Blunty.
Okay, sorry. If the camera cable is seated improperly and offset, you'll still get signal, but it'll be horrible, and your megabytes per second will be extremely low, but it'll still work. And it only happens when you arm because the low power mode it's in when you're not armed, because the Vista's got that O3 tech for arming.
Wait,
I've seen it happen multiple times.
You're saying that the camera cable can be plugged in, but it is off by one pin, and the camera still works.
Yeah.
Huh. I would bet...
you'll get really low megabit per second, and I don't know why. But if you reseat the camera cable, or if you fix the camera cable if it's broken, then it'll fix the megabyte per second. I've seen it happen.
I didn't know that.
Times.
I would have said that the camera cable cannot cause the megabit per second to be low, because the megabit per second is independent of the camera. You're saying that's not true.
But I think it has something to do with the signal it's getting from the camera or something. I can't tell you exactly why. Maybe there's a detection or something happened with the chip. Well, I don't really know. Yeah.
There you go, Andy Taylor. All right, Blunty, I'm going to mute you again. All right. I just realized that if you reseat the camera cable, sometimes it'll fix that problem. It's good to have a producer in your ear sending you the answers. Thank you, Blunty. Jonas, thank you for a $6.99 Canadian. Can you turn off ExpressLRS telemetry and just use Betaflight OSD? Yeah, you can, but why? Why not just use both of them at the same time? Yeah, you can turn off telemetry. What is the benefit of that? You can. I mean, why not also just leave it on and use Betaflight OSD? Something I'm missing. William Guerra, thank you for a $1 super chat. Let's just see if William... Yeah, there's another question from William here. I have a FETTech 45 amp 4-in-1 ESC. 30 by 30 ESC, one doesn't appear in the configurator. Anything I can do to have it reappear? Generally, when the ESC doesn't appear in the configurator, it means that the flight controller is not able to talk to the ESC, okay? So you could certainly check your signal wire or something if you're using 4 separate signal wires instead of using one wire. The other thing I would want to do is pinch the motor in my fingers and check that the ESC is powering up. Because if the ESC isn't powering up at all, it could. The thing is though that the signal side, the logic side, where it talks to the configurator, and the power side that makes it beep, are distinct. But if it wasn't like powering up at all, it could just be dead. Generally, when the FETTEC ESCs die, they fail to spin the motor, but they still are able to talk to the configurator. Check the signal wire. You could do the trick where you swap signal wires and you see if the unreachable ESC moves. It could be the output on the flight controller has a problem. Yeah, swap the signal wires and see if the missing ESC moves. And that will tell you whether the problem is the ESC or the flight controller. That's something anyway. That'll move you in the right direction. Valeri 7DO, thank you for a €5 super chat. What would be the quietest setup for a 3S to 4S Cinewhoop in terms of props and motors? Correct me if I'm wrong. People out there who fly Cinewhoops a lot, don't the 5 or 7 blade props, aren't they a lot quieter than like the 3 blade props? There's not a lot you can do to make a Cinewhoop quiet. So one of the things you can do is don't use ducts, just use little prop guards. That makes them quieter. And then use the 5 or 7 blade props. Use like as many blades as you can. And that makes the sound more of like a whoosh than like a whine. Those are the two things I think that make the biggest difference. 8 blade props are awesome, says Aerobrat. Yeah. Edgar Stausch says, hi, Joshua Bardwell. I'm new in the hobby. What kind of lipos do you recommend me to get? I have a 6S quad. Edgar, good. Like, I don't think you need to spend $45 on a super premium high-end, I think that you could spend $20 on a budget one like CNHL, like Race Day Quads brand, and any of them are going to probably be okay. I personally usually buy Race Day Quads. I know that Race Day Quads are made by GNB, which is a really solid brand. Race Day Quads ships to my house in 2 days. Like, I would buy CNHL, for example, which is another good budget brand, but CNHL ships internationally. They have an Asia warehouse. So since Race Day Quads is right down the street, metaphorically speaking, they're in Florida. I'm in Tennessee, so we're not too far apart. That's usually where I go. Yeah, that's what I buy is the Race Day Quads ones. They've always been solid for me. Speedy Pizza is popular. China Hobby Line says, Bubby says China Hobby Line has a warehouse in Virginia. I actually didn't know that. Tattoo are very good batteries, but are expensive. More expensive than I think a beginner should bother with. Severian 787, thank you for a $5 super chat, and just a thank you for all my help. Oh, thank you. Thank you. It says I'm awesome. That's what I need. There's more people telling me how awesome I am. Marcus C. First of all, happy Easter to you, Marcus. Any recommendations for GoPro Hero 8 ND filters? Reviews on the magnetic ones say they come loose too easily. I agree. The magnetic ones are, if you're going to crash at all, don't get the magnetic ones. My favorite ND filter, period, is Camera Butter. Camera Butter, they stick on with like a little sticky gasket. So they're a little bit less convenient to take on and off. But they're really good quality. And they work with just about any GoPro mount, right? You don't need a special mount. And that's what I like to use. I think if you're going to put in the effort of using an ND filter, then questions of like convenience and expense are kind of secondary, right? It's especially with the Hero 8, you don't have the option to just screw on a lens cover. The Hero 8 has to be either adhesive or mounted in the 3D in the GoPro mount. So this is the one that I use, Camera Butter. Whooplash asks, I just got the HDZero goggles and I'm trying to set up the ports for the video transmitter. Betaflight 4.4, I wired the flight controller for smart audio, RX and TX on UART 1, smart audio to R6. Now I see that HDZero preset wants me to use MSP. What do I do? Okay, so I think I'm right about this, but HDZero people, if I'm wrong, or Betaflight people, if I'm wrong, tell me. With the latest firmware for HDZero, and I don't know where the line was where this change was made, you do not need smart audio anymore. With the latest firmware, with Betaflight 4.4, okay, so you have to be on Betaflight 4.4. Betaflight 4.4 has the ability to manipulate the VTX using MSP. So as long as you have the TX and the RX working with MSP, you don't need the smart audio. Now, I'm going to watch the chat as I go to make sure that nobody's saying, no, Bardwell, you're wrong. I think I'm right about that. So you're going to go into the ports tab. And you're going to enable MSP for whichever UART it's wired to, the TX and the RX. And you're going to enable MSP plus DisplayPort here. And that's all you need to do. You don't need that extra UART for smart audio if you're on Betaflight 4.4. Still looking for people saying I'm right or wrong. I believe I'm right. At that point, you're done. Anthony Greco says I'm correct. Good. That's one person who agrees with me. He says he just finished putting one together. Okay, fantastic. So don't worry about the smart audio wire. Just remove that. And just use MSP per the preset. All right. Continuing. Jean Miranda, thank you for a $5 super chat. Would love to get an X-Class drone, but I don't know how to build one. Any websites you know that sell bind and fly X-Class drones? This raises the question of, is it irresponsible to sell someone a bind and fly X-Class drone? Let's see what the chat says. Is it irresponsible to sell someone a bind and fly X-Class? Yes or no? Let's see what the chat thinks. The reason I say that is that an X-Class is so inherently dangerous that some would argue that if you can't be bothered to build one yourself, then you don't deserve to have it. I would like to point out that we don't have that policy for sports cars. I could go buy an $800 an 800 horsepower Dodge Hellcat and spin it out and crash it into a phone pole. And then I'll get in trouble and I'll have wasted a lot of money. But I am allowed to do that. I don't know who will sell you a bind and fly X-Class. If anybody would do it, I guess it would be Catalyst Machine Works. But it's also possible that they would say, we're not taking that liability. We're not going to sell you one. What I would really do, I guess, is I would go to FPV Exchange and I would look at their build repair services and I would find one of these guys. Is this Brandon Beans? Have Brandon Beans do it for you. Brandon Beans, you want to build this guy an X-Class? I would find one of these guys, like Stupid Fast Drones Custom Build Service. Okay. I would find one of these guys that I thought I trusted. How are you going to do that? I don't know. It's your money. You figure it out. Build Repair Service. Karakin FPV. FPV Jim's Build Service. I would find one of these guys and I would ask them, will you build me an X-Class? And then if they say yes, I mean, then go with it from there. But I got to tell you, it's going to cost you a shitload of money. Because, like, the parts alone for your X-Class build are going to be $1,500. I don't know the exact number. It's going to be in the $1,000 to $2,000 range, I would say. And anybody who is going to build you a $2,000 quadcopter isn't going to say, I don't know, I guess that'd be about 3 hours of work. So, you know, $200. You're going to, because just the sheer liability of something like that is going to make people want to charge you a lot of money. Then the thing, yeah. So let's see what the chat said about the poll. Is it irresponsible to sell someone a bind and fly X class? 70% say yes, 29% say no. 118 votes total. If someone came to me and said, I want you to build me an X class, I would want to know about their history as a pilot. If they had an experience as a pilot and just didn't have time to build it, I would consider doing it. But if they were a noob who didn't know how to build and maybe didn't know how to fly, I would probably pass. So that's my opinion. Daniel H., thanks for a $5 super chat. What is your opinion on the Rotor Riot Ready to Fly Fat Shark bundle for $1,000? What would you change, add, or remove? Well, which bundle do you mean, Daniel H.? Rotor Riot has several of these bundles for $1,000. The Skylight, do you mean the Skylight starter kit for $1,000? That's their special. That's their new special. I think you're probably talking about this Skylight starter kit. So here's the thing. What you're buying when you buy this starter kit is everything you need to do to fly ready to go right out of the box. Literally, you charge the battery, you plug in the battery, you turn on the controller, you're ready to fly. Everything comes, the goggles are even bound. Literally, everything is ready to go from the moment you take it out of the box. And at that point, if you say, well, what would you add, remove, or change? I mean, theoretically, Rotor Riot will customize these for you. That's one of the reasons you might go with them instead of a company that that is less sort of personalized. They do a little bit more of a bespoke service. Although, you're probably not going to get the $999 special if you ask them to start changing stuff out, right? That's why it's the special. What would I add, remove, or change, though? On the goggles, I would have aftermarket antennas would be the first thing I would say. These stock antennas are not very good. So I would spend $70 to $80 to get an X-Air combo kit. If you buy this starter kit for $1,000 and you have another $70 or $80 in your budget, 1000% buy the upgraded antennas, the True RC antennas. Personally, I would take the 3.5 version of the quad without the ducts. I don't know if they have that for $100, for $1,000. It looks like it do. Yeah, so I would personally get the 3.5 inch. I do not want to fly this thing indoors. I'd rather fly it outdoors and get some more acro performance. If you intend to fly it indoors, get the ducts, but you're going to get better flight performance from the 3.5 inch with no ducts. You notice they also upgrade the batteries for you when you do that. So that's what I would take. The radio, TX12 is an okay radio. It's not my favorite, but it's solid. I think the number one thing I would upgrade would be the antennas, though. Okay. Michael Sprengelmeyer says, is there any reason to use electrolytic caps rather than smaller solid-state capacitors? Thanks for a $5 super chat, Michael. Michael, the short answer is yes, and the longer answer is yes. Okay, I love that joke. Sorry. The truth is, Michael, that I am not 100% confident that I'm going to say all the right words. There are characteristics that the electrolytic caps have. Like, I think one of the things an electrolytic cap has going for it is the size and weight per farad. To get a 1000 microfarad ceramic capacitor, I'm not sure how big that would be. I think the electrolytic caps have when you need like 1000 microfarad, you're going to be using an electrolytic cap because the ceramic caps just, I don't even know if they go that high. And the other characteristic of the cap is that you want low equivalent series resistance, low ESR. And I'm not sure that the ceramic caps have that characteristic? The short answer is that the electrolytic caps have the right characteristics in terms of capacitance, series resistance, size, and weight, that they are the correct choice for this application. And the longer answer is going to be given to you by somebody with more electrical knowledge than me. Mato FPV, thank you for a €5 super chat. How can I know that a battery is too big for my quad? Is there a way to calculate it? So my rule of thumb for an acro quad is that the battery should weigh about 1/2 of the dry weight. So take the whole quad, take the battery off, weigh everything that's there except the battery. And let's say that weighs 400 grams. The battery should weigh about 200 grams. Okay? There's a little bit of wiggle room here, like do you weigh the quad with the GoPro on or the GoPro off? You know. But as a rule of thumb, the battery should be about 1/2 the dry weight, or to put that another way, about 1/3 the all-up weight. If you put that together, you'll see how that works. That's for an acro quad, and it results in a relatively light battery that has relatively good handling. If you have an extremely light quadcopter, then you can be a little heavier on the battery. However, a lot of times when you go to a lighter frame and a lighter build, you compromise durability. And at that point, if you have a heavier battery, that big heavy battery is going to carry a ton of energy into a crash and be more likely to break things. But there's some wiggle room there, okay? If you have a little bit lighter build, you can go a little bit heavier on the battery and your overall performance is going to stay the same. The other thing is that if you care more about flight time than agility, you can go heavier on the battery up to, say, 50% of the dry weight. At which point you'll have a big, heavy, clunky quad that doesn't fly as well, but you'll get longer flight time. So you've got an 1800 milliamp hour 6S. How much is it weigh? Let's just get a rough weight for any random battery that I can find. 1800 milliamp hour 6S, weight 335 grams. So that's a 335, let's say it's a 300 gram battery, and you've got a 6-inch. Let's say that your 300 gram battery, your overall weight for your quad, you would want the dry weight to be about 600 grams. It feels like, and your total all-up weight is going to be about 900 grams. It feels like that's not like an insane place to be for a 6-inch. A lot of 6 inches will be a little lighter than that, but I feel like you're not in a crazy place for like a cruiser or a longer flight time, but not necessarily for like an acro, a heavy acro quad. Asidel says, no gyro boot grace, time is fixable. So I think what's happening is you are powering up your quad and you're seeing no gyro. Plug in. There we go. You're seeing no gyro here in the setup tab. You're seeing no gyro here, right? You're also seeing boot grace. If you see no gyro here, the number one way that happens is that you flashed the wrong target. So when you went into the firmware updater, you chose the wrong target here. And the solution to that is to flash it with the correct target, whatever that might be. The other thing is that after you flash, when you first connect, and it says apply custom defaults, if you don't apply custom defaults, then you'll get no gyro. Those are the main things that cause that. And if it's not one of those things, then it's usually hardware damage and your flight controller is toast. And you just replace your flight controller. I know that's not the answer you were hoping for. Bob HFPV asks, lately I've had 4 antennas just break internally. 2 of them were the original Walksnail antennas. Good. Throw them out and get better antennas. 2 Foxeer lollipops. Oh, those are usually pretty solid. This never happened to me before, and suddenly 4 got destroyed. How can I avoid this? I mean, did you crash? Is that how they broke? When you crash, things break. But I don't know what to tell you other than that. Sometimes you can find a more secure way of mounting the antenna, like closer to the frame. Sometimes you can get one of those 3D prints that like encloses the antenna instead of the kind of 3D print that it sticks out on a stalk. And that gives you worse coverage, but it protects the antenna more. The Foxeer lollipops are usually pretty solid. Also, are you sure they are broken internally? Because some antenna designs, the cap can rotate and it's not broken. Thumper FPV. That's my friend who helped me. That's my friend who helped me do the mods on my car. I don't know if you guys saw this. I don't have a, let's see. Where is the, oh yeah. There we go. That's him right there. And don't let him fool you. This guy did all the work. This guy right here did all the work. Yeah, got intercooler, downpipe. Just did the downpipe. I feel like my car is probably going to hit around 380 horsepower once I get the final tune on it. It's going to be pretty good. It's going to be pretty good. Oh, and also, I'm happy to report that I washed it yesterday. So now look how good it's looking. Look how good it's looking. Looks good, sounds good. I'm told that with bolt-ons like this and a tune, this car can hit around 360, 380. The exact number obviously going to vary. I'm told. I haven't got it on a dyno, but that'd be a good place to be. And it definitely is noticeable. I don't have any sound for you. I don't have any recordings of it. The 0 to 60 time went down from about 5.3, 5.4 to around 4.9. That's a pretty significant improvement. I'm pretty happy with it. Oh, have fun up there in Canada. I believe that sitting around bored out of your mind is actually the national sport of Canada. Canadians, tell me if I'm wrong. Sam Sparks wants to know, can you spectate the Integra with the V2? Yes, you can. As long as they're in O3 mode. I can't 100% verify this because I don't have the Integra, but I know it works with the O3, so I assume it works with the Integra. I might have one video of the... Hang on. I might have one video. Hold on. Nope, I don't. Oh well. Maybe another time. Dmitry Shafransky. Thank you for 200 CZK. Let me make sure I got this right. Those are Czech Koruna. Dimitri asks, I'm still on analog. I have different drones with different cameras. Should I care about camera configuration, PAL, NTSC, etc.? I'm not sure if I should be doing fine-tuning. That's a tough one. So I don't personally care about PAL versus NTSC. You could make an argument that the difference in frame rate versus the difference in resolution. There are people who have preferences. Like some people prefer PAL because it has higher resolution. Some people prefer NTSC because it has higher frame rate. I never really cared that much. If you have a set of goggles, some goggles don't like it when you switch from PAL to NTSC without power cycling the goggles. Like when they first power up, they auto-detect PAL or NTSC. And then if you unplug that quad and plug a different quad in, like the DVR won't record right. So some people would try to keep all their cameras on a matching firmware or matching standard PAL or NTSC. I never bothered. As far as the other settings, you certainly can tweak things like the brightness and the exposure. But that's really a personal thing, and I personally mostly just like to choose a camera that has settings I like and go with it. I'm told that Canadians also like hockey. Fair enough. And poutine. Poutine is pretty good. Monkey. Thank you for a €5 super chat, Monkey. Between the HDLRC Aeolus 2306.5 for $60 and the Axis Flying AE 2207 for $52, which one would you choose? Do you think they're good options for the money? I'm sorry. Where are you paying? Is that for a set of motors? Where are you paying $60 for a single 2306 motor? That doesn't seem right. Where are you paying $60? I can't make that math work because this is a $20 motor. So 4 of them would be $80 and one of them would be $20. I have no idea how your numbers work out. But let's assume that your numbers are correct. It's a AF 2207. Oh, I see. AliExpress has them 4 for $60. That's a damn good price. That's a damn good price. So then what's the $52 for the... that's a tough one. The Aeolus, I like that the... Oh, nope, sorry, hold on. Wrong screen. I like that the Aeolus has a unibell. The Aeolus also has this protective shield around the bottom, which is a nice touch. 2306 versus 2207, I don't think is really what would make the choice for me. What the hell? The 2207 motor. Why are we talking about the tiny whoop motors? I like the Unibell. That might start to steer me towards the Aeolus. Also, it's weird to me that for you, the Axis Flying is cheaper. Yeah, what do you got, Plenty? The AE. Oh, have I got the wrong motor? Oh, that's the Eco motor. Oh, that changes it. $15. Well, I think the Aeolus is a more premium motor at a higher price point. So because for you the price is like $60 versus $52, I probably would take the Aeolus because it's a better deal on a higher priced, more premium motor. I think the AE 2207 needs to be 25% less expensive than the Aeolus, just based on the specs of the motors. I don't know anything like about the motors, like secret insights about their performance or their durability. But just looking at the specs, I would say that the AE 2207 needs to be like a $15 motor, whereas the Aeolus is like a $20 motor. And for your prices of $60 versus $52, I feel like that pricing doesn't quite work out. 52 out of 60 it's only a 15% markdown. So I think based on that, the AE 2207 is overpriced, or the Aeolus is a particularly good deal. But I can only comment on the specs of the motors because I don't personally have like information about how they perform in the field and so forth. Roberito says QC on the Aeolus has been bad in my experience. I do have a sense that HDLRC doesn't have the best QC in the industry. And I don't want to have that turn into me just bad-mouthing them every time they come up. But I think that Axis Flying is trying a little harder to have a reputation for quality. than HDLRC, and maybe that would sway me a little bit more. Maybe that's why the ALS are marked down. Ian Cooper wants to know, would a faulty antenna connection my Tango 2 cause poor range? Yeah, of course. I thought it was the quad as others flew further, but I've swapped out everything. I'm tearing my hair out. Ian, if you must, you can open up that Tango 2 and you can look to see if like the UFL connector has popped off the main board. It's possible that it's happened. I don't think it's likely, but it's possible. If you have multiple quads with bad range, then that does point to the controller. Another thing you could do, if you have a friend or somebody else with a Crossfire radio, you could try binding to their radio and see if the range gets better. Another test you can do is you can do a test of the RSSI on the bench. Oh, I never can find this when I'm looking for it. I can never find this when I'm looking for it. And the chat has to tell me where it is. Come on. There's a test you can do. Damn it. Where? Under Quick Start?
Before first flight on the left, I think there's a...
Where is it? Oh, here. Oh, that's it, isn't it? Yes. Come on. There it is. Okay, great. Thank you, Plenty. So there's this bench test suggestion. It's on the ExpressLRS wiki webpage, but you can do it with Crossfire. It works exactly the same. And what you're going to do is you're going to look at you're going to set your module to 10 milliwatts or whatever the lowest power you can. And you're going to put your radio about a meter away and power it up. And then you're going to look at the RSSI dBm value. And for 900 megahertz, roughly like minus 20 dBm is about right. You would need to adjust that. If you were at 10 milliwatts, you'd be at roughly minus 20 dBm, and then for every 6 dB, you would add, for every dB of signal strength, you would add or subtract from that threshold. But like if you are a meter away and you're at like minus 40 or minus 50 dBm, that's no good. So you're going to want to see a relatively high value here. That could help you figure out whether you have bad hardware, a damaged antenna. SPB 2005 asks, I have a GEP RC Synolog 2.5 and suddenly the motors produced a high-pitched sound and don't have the same power. It is unusable in this state. What can I do? Is it the ESC or the motor? If it suddenly all four motors died, I would suspect the ESC, right? Because the ESC is a singular unit that can die at the same time, theoretically. Whereas to have all four motors spontaneously die at the same time seems unlikely. This is like a very, very rough guess. But if I have to pick one or the other, then I'm going to pick the ESC there. Snoopy FPV wants to know, I've been using the command set task statistics equals on in Betaflight for years, and it worked. With Betaflight 4.4, the statistic doesn't work. It doesn't work at all in 4.4.0. I mean, Snoopy, we're going to have to refer to a Betaflight expert. What am I? I mean, I'm a Betaflight expert, but I'm not a Betaflight developer. And I actually have never used this option. So presumably the Betaflight devs changed or renamed this option or got rid of it entirely. But I don't know. So we certainly could wait for someone to pop up and tell me the answer. Or we could head over to the Betaflight Discord server. And let's see. I don't think we're going to find this under quick support. I don't know. What kind of questions are being asked here? Do we have devs here? Oh, that's my video. Isn't that nice? I don't know where we would ask this question. I think I would have to ask this question on the Betaflight Discord because that's where the developers hang out. But I don't have a good answer for you, unfortunately. Next up, what's your thoughts on the JET MCU GHF 411 Pro BMI 40 amp toothpick brushless flight controller? Thank you, IBRCN2, for a 550 Canadian super chat. Underdog FPV, good to see you. Always nice to see you pop up there. So I think that the JET MCU GHF 411 AIO, I think those are okay all-in-one. Any of the all-in-one toothpick flight controllers are of questionable durability, especially if you use them on larger, more powerful quads. But I haven't heard bad things about, I mean, you'll hear somewhere out there, somebody is like, F them, it died on me. So, like, it's hard to know the general trend. I have a generally good disposition towards these. If the chat has any thoughts, I'd love to hear them. I think the JHE-MCU flight controllers have nice pinouts. They're relatively easy to solder up. And are relatively, and I don't think they have a reputation for just being terrible durability. Whereas some other brands, I might be like, yeah, they don't have a great reputation for durability. It's tough to know. Like, Beta FPV is the brand I'm thinking of. Beta FPV is so much more popular than a lot of other brands that it's hard to know when people say they had a bad experience, whether that's just because there's so many of them in the field. Let's see. Matter Hatter loves the JHE-MCU GF13. Yeah. I would consider this one, personally. I think I have put one of these into a tiny trainer, actually. Magic Carpet Ride. Thanks for a $5 super chat. What are some of your favorite FPV channels, if you watch any? Well, you know what I have been doing lately is I've been seeing some stuff on like YouTube Shorts or TikTok that I've been saving. Hang on. And I'll show you. This is the latest one that I saved. This is at Vine Kurt Reaction. Well, you can see at the FPV DJI. That's what that is. The FPV DJI. And check this out. Oh, sorry. Hang on. No, you need the audio. Ooh! Oh, good save. No, you missed that one. Ooh, you hear those motors shuddering. Woo! Nice drop. Are we going back around? No. This is not a loop yet. Clean. Clean. Oh, clean. Woo, clean. Clean. Oh my goodness, so clean. Wow. Whew, that's so precise. Such precise control. Love it. Love it. Who else? Who else? Hang on, there's one more that I saved. Where is it? Where is it? Where is it? Where is it? I sent it to myself. Oh no, I can't find it. Oh, I can't find it. Oh well, I'll have to find it another time. Very smooth. So really enjoying that one. Where is Lumpy? Not Lumpy FP. What's he go by? He's on Facebook. I don't know if he's on YouTube. What's Lumpy? Lumpy's good too. I think people know Lumpy. Anyway, there's lots of great pilots out there. That's one that I noticed recently. Okay. Folks, we've got about 5 minutes left in the stream. I still have 4 items in the queue that I'm going to clear out. And don't forget that Aaron Ciotti streams at 3 p.m. after me. So if he shows up, he'll start posting his links to the stream. And after I go off, you can watch him. Let's continue, though. Deuce FPV, thanks for a $10 super chat. I had an accident with my TX16S Mark II. It fell from a 3-story building, so it's fucked. Will I have to rebind all my quads? Yes. If it's ExpressLRS, you could put the binding phrase in your new radio and you don't have to rebind it. This is one of the reasons I love binding phrases. As soon as you get a new radio, or if you have more than one radio for some reason, then just stick the binding phrase in. It's a piece of cake. Deuce FPV, save the SD card. Sorry, man, that's not going to do it. The physical identifier of the radio is going to be different. Unless you have ExpressLRS and use a binding phrase, or unless you have a module, like a Crossfire module or a Ghost module, that survived the crash, then you're going to need to rebind them. People are pointing out that Ciotti is actually, he's not streaming because I think he's working a job today. I don't think it's because it's Easter. But, yeah. Here's a question from Focus FPV. Thanks for a $5 super chat. Thank you for building an awesome community. They just fixed my Cinnabot ExpressLRS binding issue. I learned a lot today. The Discord server is amazing. I almost feel chagrined because people pay me, then they join the Discord server, and then the people on the Discord help them for free. In like, I'm like, is this like ethical? But then any way I think about potentially setting up like some kind of weird like profit sharing bounty system on the Discord server, it doesn't feel right either. So like many ethical questions involving money, at the end of the day, the answer I settle on is to just keep it all myself. Huh. Oh, probably won't spend too much time thinking about the implications of that. All I'm trying to say is that the Discord server is awesome. Go capitalism. Mado FPV, thanks for a €2 super chat. Should I consider lithium-ion batteries for my 6-inch? Lithium-ion batteries are going to give you more energy density. You're going to be able to run them down lower, and so you'll get longer flight times. They're going to be heavier and have less current capacity. So if you do a lot of slow cruising, yes, lithium-ion can be good. If you do a lot of punchy, freestyle, high-speed stuff, lithium-ion isn't going to do it for you. If it's a long-range cruiser, yes, lithium-ion can help. Here's a question from Zopixmop. Zopixmop asks, I know you did a vid on sims, but you only recommended liftoff because your house map. Is it a good sim for freestyle for a complete beginner? Yeah, absolutely. So I just want to be clear. I don't think I just recommended liftoff because it has my house in it. Liftoff is actually the sim I fly the most, except when I want to do racing stuff, then I fly Velocidrone. But for just general fun screwing around, I fly liftoff the most. In my roundup, we kind of, the thing is that liftoff, like, we wanted to find something unique about each of the sims that made them stand out. And so for liftoff, the thing that makes it like stand out, the thing it has that literally no one else has, is my house in it. I think actually somebody made a version of my house in Velocidrone now that I think about it. So maybe that's not true. So that's why we focused on that in the roundup, but that's not the only thing it's got going for it. And that brings us to the end of the queue. Blunty sliding us in with an empty queue and 1 minute to go in the stream. My goodness. Do you guys, hang on, Blunty, I'm going to unmute you. Blunty, you're unmuted. Do you guys think this is making the live streams better? Let's take a look. I was cranking. Chat revenue, only $124 in chat revenue. That's not exceptional for a Sunday. I mean, I'm not complaining. I mean, I was cranking. We got a lot of questions answered, though. I'll tell you that. Yeah. Well, thank you, Plenty. We'll see how it works out when we go to the live stream clips. How many questions do you think we went through? Yeah. I mean, like, at least, I think, like 30 or 40, clearly, I would guess. Oh. Oh. Oh, I see that. I'll go back and answer those before we end the stream, especially because Ciati is not streaming. So I do see that there are some questions. Like the way it works is, here's the queue, and I just go through and I hit the button next in queue. I do see that some of these haven't been. That's weird. Oh, are you? Oh, now you're unmuted. Sorry, guys.
Hello, guys.
Hi, everybody. Vitus wants to know the best goggles under $400. Hang on, let me go back to the face cam. Best analog goggles under $400 is a used set of HDOs for around $350. Look for used SkyZone Sky 04X HDOs, even HDO2, although I think they're a little more expensive, and that's what I would go with. A new FPV, a new analog goggle under $400. Like, I think you should either be in like the $200 price range and buying something cheap, or the $500 price range and buying something good. But in the $400 price range, you're going to be buying a used $500 or $600 goggle. That's my opinion. A question here from Erie509. What would you say is the best Fat Shark goggle to use with HDZero Sharkbite or Walksnail VRX? Should I upgrade my Dominator V3? Erie, my thing about the Dominator V3 is it's got is that the one with the 16:9, like 640 screen? So it's a relatively low resolution screen and a small screen. I mean, if you're gonna buy the HDZero goggle, then don't upgrade don't buy anything else. Just stick with the Dom V3 until you get the HDZero goggle. Don't lose money on an intermediate goggle that you don't really want. So yeah, no, stick with the Dom V3 if it works, and eventually you'll get the HDZero goggle. Andrew NA wants to know how to enable recording on a Vista without the flight controller, let's say in a mobile robot application. Andrew, turn off temp protection and you'll be able to record on the Vista. This doesn't... if it's the O3, there's a little more to it than that. The O3 will not go to full power even when you turn off temp protection. But on a Vista or Air unit, just turn off temp protection. You're going to want like a fan or something blowing on it because it will overheat. Athix points out that the HD3 is 16.9, but that's okay for the digital systems because they're 16.9 too. We got a question from MJ. What antennas do you recommend? I have a rapid fire and a 7-inch. I'm trying to get the most range without using a ground station. So I would refer you to my website, fpvknowitall.com, which has suggested antennas. Personally, I use the Vaz Ion and the Vaz Crosshair. Those are the two that I go with. Gamma Gonad thinks that Blunty is going to... Blunty, I know... Blunty, you... Let's be honest, though. You pinned this. He's like, oh, I think Blunty being there is going to pay off. I have no self-interest there, Blunty. I find myself watching clips, which I already watched the full stream. That's great. I sort of short to the point. I watch a lot of them. Yeah, that's actually the reason that you started doing this, Blunty, is because I think we were missing a lot of clips and not getting as high a quality of questions. I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, I think so. It's a sort of a trade-off. There's another, if you want to click the next, the other pin we have there.
More efficient, but less personal. It used to feel like he was just hanging out. Yeah, I do interact with the chat less, especially when I look over and I see a queue with 20 things in it.
Yeah. So this is a trade-off. We'll work
Interesting.
through it just so the stream knows. Obviously, like we're doing this this is the third time where this
Right.
is new for us. One thing we'll get used to is that I'm queuing up all those, but it shouldn't feel like anxiety because I'm managing them and I can juggle in and out questions based on value and time. So
That's true. You could. He's not muted now, is he? Yeah. Oh, that's an old message. Plenty talk.
Hey, this is me.
Yeah, okay, you're going out. That's true. When I see 20 queued up, I shouldn't worry. Oh, am I going to get them all? Because if I spend a long time on one, you can just DQ some of them. That's a good point.
Yeah.
Got you managing it. And the other thing that will get a little more in sync with, I think, is that I think you pinning the messages as I'm talking. If there's chat messages that I should be noticing, then you can pin them. And it can make it a little more interactive. I think that it's a net positive because I know I missed a shitload of feedback. Like I would finish talking, and then look at the chat and sometimes see, oh, here's a comment that makes sense. But I know I missed more than I got. And with you there to queue them up, I feel like that the goal will be to get more of them. Is he gone?
No, I'm here. Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. But we'll keep working on it. Thank you guys for being here. That's going to do it for today, though. I'm going to go see the Mario movie with my kids. Oh, wait, what?
We can't miss a super chat. We got one more super chat.
Oh, Terry Burnett. Just want to say thanks to you two. Thank you, Terry Burnett, for a $10 super chat. Appreciate it. Oh, and do we need to get this one from Sprayer? Had a quad end up in the ocean yesterday looking at new stacks. Is there much reason to go with an F7 over an F4? Sprayer, the short answer is an F4 will do everything you need it to do today. They have a couple of little disadvantages. I actually answered almost this exact question last week. Blunty, do you know? Does that ring a bell for you? Is that going up on the Livestream Clips channel?
That'll definitely be up on the Livestream Clips channel. But just in case, you need to know, don't buy the F411, buy the F405 so you have more UARTs and more flexibility.
Okay. And keep an eye over on the live stream, Joshua Bardwell live stream clips, and that'll go up if it hasn't already, and you can see the full answer.
And real quick, GoPro says, can you do a video review of the Mario movie? I bet you'll be doing one tomorrow on the live stream.
Maybe. We'll talk about it tomorrow on the live stream, probably. I'm so torn because, like, I kind of wanted to hate it when I first saw the trailer because it feels kind of like a shameless money grab. Like, I don't know. That's what's good. But then it's getting such positive reviews. I don't know if I'm.
How do you feel about the Minions?
Well, the Minions are clearly a shameless money grab, but I don't have any emotional attachment to the thing that they're. So, like the Despicable Me movie came out, and it was good. I liked it. And then the Minions got popular, and then they just started releasing Minion shit because the Minions got popular. And I'm like, okay. They're cute movies. I don't have any bad feelings about them, but like Mario, I have like sentimental feelings towards. So for them to then release a Mario movie, like I have feelings if it's a shameless money grab. Is that where you were going?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's the same. It's Illumination. It's the same studio. It's the same idea behind it. So yeah.
It's interesting. So what you're saying is either you could be saying, so they're going to do a good job with it because they did a good job with Minions. But you could also be saying, or it's just going to be a shameless money grab because that's what like the last 4 Minions movies were.
Yes to both, pretty much.
I have a friend who is super into the Minions movies, and so I have actually seen every one of them.
Do you like shameless references to Mario video games? Do you like being in the in crowd to be, you know what I mean? Like that's where we're going, I think. That's my guess.
Yeah, but it has to be more than just shameless references to the Mario video games.
Does it?
First of all, I'm not going to get a lot of those references because I haven't played a lot of the Mario games. I don't want to act like I'm some Mario super fan. So I'm not even going to get half the references. I just want it to be a solid movie. I don't think Chris Pratt, I'm really curious to see how Chris Pratt voices Mario, okay?
I've heard the one word I've heard to describe it is Brooklyn, so that'll be interesting.
I mean, Mario could be from Brooklyn.
I think that's the canon now.
I was okay with the original Mario Brothers movie with frickin' John Leguizamo and Captain Lou Albano. So, I don't know. All right, guys. That's going to do it. Y'all have a good day. I'm out of here. Bye.